Welcome back to another fantastic episode of I'm going to talk and you're going to listen. I'm going to thank all my engagement buddies. CDK, my number one engagement buddy, and Barrio, my number two engagement buddy. Appreciate you guys. And Barrio said we were joking about kale. I'm strongly considering just putting up like a whole wall of kale. I am moderately sure eyeballing from a safe distance my neighbor's garden. And it seriously does look like they have an entire row of kale. So I think they have figured out the kale infinite food glitch. So I'm going with the tried and true grow what works for your area and grow tons of it. I'm probably going to do the same thing, even though I don't even eat kale. And then learn how to take care of kale better. I'm practicing, but I don't have enough to really practice it a ton, but I'm going to try. Barrio says, a no trespassing sign. This was talking about Talk with Grok episode 2. I've had really bad luck with no trespassing signs. It's been my experience that empowers people. They think you're a weak mark, an easy mark. And they will feel empowered and emboldened, and they will walk right up with a confident smirk on their face. Unbeknownst to them, I am not only not an easy mark, but often use it to my advantage and to gather information and such from them. What I don't like is when they harass other people at my house. So I don't do that anymore. However, my neighbors do. I'll ask them if I ever get on a chatty basis with them someday. I'll ask them how it works. Your results may vary in a rural area versus an urban area, but I'll tell you, in urban areas, it doesn't do anything. However, what it does do is it warns them that they're crossing a threshold, crossing a danger area, and that while they may be confidently swaggering their way over to your door, they have had ample warning should you decide to take their advances as potentially hostile, which I have had to do in the past, because one time someone did stick their foot in my door before I could close it, and almost I was in the process of drawing on him when he decided against it. So, yeah, I would say no trespassing signs are situational. So it depends. It depends on urban or rural and a lot of other things. Maybe we'll do a whole episode on no trespassing signs sometime, along with no shooting signs and a couple of other signage. Jay Lauren says, again with the Talk with the Grok episode, I usually let them know it's widely known that it's the most popular book in the world, and it's a little strange to imply someone hasn't read it, particularly in America. Yeah, that's true. They begin to quote indefensible verses and ask which ones. They aren't real Christians. They just want to recruit Christians. I agree. I agree with all that. I don't chase them away because I like to gather intel from them. As I implied a few minutes ago, having those people around, they can be your extra eyes and ears, but you have to realize that they're also scoping you out. So there's some kind of give and some take. You gotta control your optics. You don't want to show up on their radar either. So I'm not entirely convinced that they're as weak as they lead themselves on to be, but they may very well be absolutely weak. And we kind of chatted back and forth. You can go check out our conversation if you go to the Talk with Grok episode 2. The Shiloh Hendricks Give Send Go is up to $750,000. So if anyone's donated to that, thank you. She says everything's been going okay. She's very thankful. They've had to be obviously more aware. They've still been getting the death threats. The fundraiser should be keeping them safe, though. And they have a support team helping them with the death threats. And they've, I think most importantly, they have actually started to get the payments. And so I think that's really cool. I think a lot of PsyOps really tried hard to discourage people from donating to this. I'll say Give Send Go is an extremely, extremely reliable and robust platform. They have been through the heaviest trials and tribulations that there has been. They've had some breaches in the past, but they never gave up. And they, even though their website looks a little rinky dink, they are a tried and true, battle tested, literally battle tested platform. And I don't take anybody shitting on them. So yeah. Tuck says, storms can stir up irritants and pollutants. My sinuses have been driving me crazy. Tuck also says, how fast do I type? I type between 120 and 140 if I know what I'm typing. I type around 100 if I'm typing casually. Some people like hearing me type. Someday, if I ever get fiber, I'll go back to doing typing streams on YouTube and record those for folks. One other mini housekeeping note before I get going. My site was getting my YouTube page was getting a great influx of traffic. Right up until my tribalism episode, and my watch time tanked to almost 0 right after that episode, back to where I was months ago. So that's great. Fuck you, Twitter. Go eat one and then fly a kite. I think it's insane to me that you can just be clipping along at a steady clip. And I know all of my YouTuber buddies all bring it up. It's absolutely insane. It is impossible to get ahead on here without creating something viral. And then every episode has to do equally good or better. You have to continually climb. It's like working for one of those private equity firms. Being a YouTube video maker is like working for a private equity firm. It's outrageous and offensive. So anyway, I appreciate y'all, actually staying and watching a few minutes of the video. The commenting helps, but the watch time helps too. So I appreciate that. I hope I keep everybody mildly entertained. Or at least, while you're driving or whatever. I know some of you really like the long form content. I appreciate that. I do have a main topic. I kind of have 2 topics. The first topic is I stayed up really late last night and I spent legit 8 hours today without a break working on digital radios. And I kind of want to share something with you, which is in my prepper journey and working on rebranding bunker codes to bunker basics and stuff. Like, you cannot learn every prepper thing there is to learn, period, unless it's your full-time job and you are surrounded by consultants. All of these celebrity YouTubers have consultants, or they go to training, they or it's their full-time job and they go out and just try things until they get it right. If you have a full-time job, you raise kids or whatever, or whatever it is you do, you're not going to be able to learn everything. You have to have a support network that's willing to work on stuff. Part of the problem is, and I know some of you can identify with this, just because one person's working on something does not immediately mean that your whole prepper group has to switch to the new thing. What does help is if they can have one buddy. Although in the case of radios, like, one person having two radios is kind of like having a buddy. And then once you get the radio good enough, then you hand the second radio to a different person. And so you don't always need a buddy for everything, but you eventually will. So no matter what prepper thing you're working on, if you're in a mutual helper group, I encourage you to not get discouraged if your whole group doesn't want to move to, if they're not energized by whatever the new thing is that you're all suddenly energized about. I really suggest, like, if it's canning, if it's jarring, if it's gardening, like, I have been aware of groups in the past that very, very much fall apart when half of them want to do tactical stuff and half of them want to dehydrate. And I say that condescendingly because both of those have their place, but the dehydrator people shouldn't get all poo-pooey over the people that want to do tactical stuff, right? And that's the problem. I think everybody who does tactical stuff thinks that dehydrating stuff is neat, but they're not comparable. They're both skills. They're both perishable. They both take resources and gear, but they're not the same. So people that decide to do canning and jarring and gardening should not see themselves as somehow better than the people who are out doing tactical stuff. And you can easily extrapolate that out to, like, when the shit hits the fan, the people doing patrolling, the people doing security have to somehow still maintain equality with the people who are gardening and the people who are keeping the little monsters safe. I know it sounds like commie bullshit, but there has to be some semblance of equality and maintaining jealousy to a minimum, because it is so common for people to get stuck in their own heads that what they are doing is more important than what the other, or more relevant than what the other person or group is doing. And it's usually stems from jealousy, And so they get in their little pod and they put the other side down to lift themselves up. It's very childish, but this happens in prepper groups constantly. I always joke about people shitting on, 40 ammo. Um, I think 40 is shit ammo. Um, but if you bring that up in a prepper group, there's people that will legitimately lose their fucking minds because they live vicariously through 40 ammo. Um, so I say that as a joke to just see who gets triggered. There's also people who can't agree on which way to use a tourniquet. Um, you might have one person in the group that stores up all the gauze, and they think their value to the group is that they have accumulated massive amounts of gauze. While all of those things may or may not be important in any situation, it doesn't put anybody on extra footing, right? Somebody having a freeze dryer is great, but if they never let you use it, it doesn't fucking matter. Um, having access to an amazing wood splitter doesn't matter if you never get to fucking use it. And having a great CQB team doesn't matter if they don't have food that they can take out on patrol. Being able to make food so people can go out on patrol doesn't make you worth more than the people putting their life on the line. And that doesn't mean the people that are out putting their life on the line get extra rations of whatever it is they scavenge, or that doesn't mean they get to do all the things associated with having ultimate power when they're out and about and patrolling. So you have to find even footing where what everybody does is understood that it's all equal and it's all important, and they're putting the amount of time and resources and effort and energy that they can, and that isn't any better or worse than anybody else. As I've said so many times before, there's going to be people that are just raising their family and they just want to spend every precious second they can with their kids. That in and of itself is not the end of the world for a mutual aid group, but what does tend to happen is if those same people continually squander all of their money on frivolous entertainment instead of prepping, they're going to be not putting the amount of food away that they need. Right? If they keep spending money on sports or vehicles that are entertainment, vanity vehicles, vanity projects, they're not accumulating more land. They're not putting more food in the ground. They might even have money, let's say. They might even have good jobs. But if you're not accumulating ammo and food as you go, you're going to be stuck right at the end with everybody else. And that's tough. You have to have people to do both. You have to have people putting food away. And that doesn't have to be everybody. You could have just one or two people and it's their job to put food away. You could have one or two people and it's just their job to put bandages away, gauze. But you have to be able to trust that those people aren't going to leave and leave you high and dry. So one of the things that I used to figure out if I could place any trust in somebody at all, and to be honest, it's been accurate, is like, will they let me cache something at their house, even if it's one little tote? if they won't let me cash even one little toad at their house, I'm just done with those people, period. And I suggest you create some kind of little rule for yourself like that. Because with a mutual aid group, you might not get to all train and prep and practice at the same time. A lot of the time there's spouses that get in the way. And I know there's a lot of gals out there that have feckless, useless piece of shit husbands that get in the way of the gals wanting to prep. If it's anything that I've learned, is that an overwhelming amount of gals want to prep and just have feckless, useless, spineless piece of shit boyfriends and husbands that get in the way of that and kick those people to the curb. If they are a detriment to your prepping, unless they're trying to, buy all your debt down so you can be debt free, which should be the priority. But if your debts are settled, you've got to be responsibly prepping and putting shit back and training and planning and practicing and getting prepared. That's the huge beef that I have with a lot of my family. Constantly squandering resources. And if I could go back in time and tell myself how bad and how fast it was going to be, and how every failure and mistake sets you back so much, I would be a completely different person. Even down to I would have cleaned my teeth a different way. That's how much down to the gnat's ass we're talking. I would literally have completely changed the way I cleaned my teeth. I would have completely changed the way I saved money. I wouldn't have spent a fucking penny on anything digital, period, ever. That would have taken away a lot of memories. But if I could have that money back, I could have kept my last house, and I would be a completely different class of citizen right now. By not having a low or no interest house, or not having a house at one of the dips, you immediately become a second class citizen. You immediately have half the buying power of everybody else. And it's too late. That's all too late now. But from that, I have learned, even though I've lost 10 years of my life and untold amounts of money, just over the years. People that have a house with low or no interest and they were able to buy at the dips, those people have no idea how good they have it. They could not fathom, consciously, even remotely understand how good they have it. And I am constantly judged at work and dictated to by people who effectively, solely because when they bought their house, either because they bought a dip or it was low or no interest or both, have literally twice the buying power as me. And it's crazy. It's crazy. Then you have the boomers, which is just a whole different can of worms. But what I want you to understand is that you're at a massive disadvantage, and as a prepper, you lean towards wanting to buy all the gear and buy all the food and buy all the gauze and stuff. But if you have a really good mutual aid group, or maybe a subset of a church group, unless you're Jehovah's Witnesses, in case you're fucked, uh, apparently. But you need to find a small group, or talk to your small group and say, I have a dehydrator. Do you all want to dehydrate? Does anyone want to dehydrate food together? Does anyone want to jar fruit together? Is anyone really good at jarring fruit? Because there's a couple different ways to do it, and there's a couple of different outcomes. And you could make a list or just make a mental list, but you need to have two people, jarring or dehydrating, two people food savoring, two people doing medical. But everybody has to equally value everybody else. You need at least two people training tactically. You need at least two people on radios. That way you always have like a master and an apprentice, and you keep the skills kind of in between centralized and decentralized. Nobody accumulates too much power as being the one medic, and so just nobody is allowed to do medical because being a medic is their thing. I've seen that before. That's like, well, can you train me? No. Okay. Then why are you the medic again? Or why are you leading and planning when you can't lead or plan yourself out of a paper bag? And then you've got somebody else saying, where's the comms plan? It's like, motherfucker, what do you do? You can't dictate to me where the comms plan is when you don't fucking do anything. Oh, you do the tactical stuff? Okay, well, do you even know what a comms plan would be if your life depended on it? Are you even going to do our comms plan? Or are you developing a comms plan with somebody else? And then you work on a bug out plan, and a bunch of people that aren't a part of the bug out plan suddenly want to see it. And it's like, motherfucker, you didn't help me create my bug out plan. I'm bugging out with these people. You haven't contributed anything. Why do you want to be a part of the bug out? Why do you want to know this? You want to just piggyback on the back of our bug out plan? You think you're coming to our bug out spot when you haven't contributed anything, and you've had chances to? You've had opportunities. So these are things to think about. It's all about keeping everybody on an even keel, a level playing field. And then someday when the wheel rolls around and everyone gets a bug up their ass to learn about radios really quick, because all of a sudden it's important. And it's really nice because you've got two people spun up on radios, and you can take care of everybody really fast. Or coming up with mission plans. If you have two people that know how to come up with mission plans, it's really easy to train everybody else suddenly when it's time for mission planning. And then once you do it a few times, the whole thing makes perfect sense. Being a prepper is not all about bug out bags and IFAC kits. That's one of the great things about this book, Planning for an Uncertain Future by Spike's Guides. That was one of the things that he says in there. It's really funny. It's like, it's not all about IFAC kits and bug out bags, which they're more than happy to try to sell you. I crack up every time I hear that. Every time I read that in this book, I'm just like, man, this hits so hard. This is so true. Being a prepper is about being able to manage a small group. And by the way, that group should never be more than 8 people. And actually, like 7. 7 is the magic number. I know squads are 12, but that's military and there's top-down structure. If you're in a civilian group, you keep your numbers at 7, and they're invite only, and they're merit based. If you want to have more than 7, you got to split the group up somehow, either 4 and 3 with whoever the 2 leaders are, and then each leader starts their own group, but then the 2 leaders stay in contact to try to keep everything still moving in some semblance of a decent direction, so they can still have folks from each group cross-trained, so one group doesn't take both radio people. So at least someone from the other group is trained up on radios, so you can do a train the trainer thing. Learning radios. Just really quick before I segue to part 2. Guerrilla's Guide to Baofeng Radios by NC Scout. There's way more plagiarized counterfeit copies going around again. Every single prepper needs that book, and every single, you need to make sure you actually do not accidentally get a counterfeit copy. Support the real guy that did the real book, NC Scout. The link's down in my shopping list section, or you can go to Brush Beater, which is his website. Except that I think he has a trade paperback version, but I think it's sold out at the moment. He was out somewhere, and he's got to come back and get more on the website. But it's always available on Amazon under their printing thing too. I think he's got it like dual published or something. But make sure you get a legitimate copy. Don't support the people that are pirating his book. Same thing with the rest of these. I've got a really great little section of books started down in the shopping cart section. Definitely check them out. I've been reading Tactical Wisdom, Defensive Operations. I was actually reading it. It fits in my cargo pocket really nice. I was actually reading it the other day at the Department of Licensing, and I was reading it out loud, and it was kind of funny. One guy actually got up and moved. He was a big guy too, but he actually got up and moved. I guess he didn't want to hear about it. But yeah, I read it out loud while we were waiting in the Department of Licensing. Anyway. So yeah, I spent a long time on radios, and there may only be one other person that cares. There may only be one other person that even loosely understands. And it's tough, especially with radios, because they're friggin' expensive. And the other person may even buy a completely different one than you. But those are just better opportunities to see if you can get the 2 radios to talk to each other. See which radio is better or worse. Don't get mad at your team for not immediately hopping onto some new technology. I'm usually the technology guinea pig. It's been like that forever. 20 years. I've been the technology guinea pig ever since I can remember. I learn, but part of it is because I learn really fast. I learn new things really fast, and then I can disseminate them to everybody else. And then everybody else can decide what they think about it. So I've been one of the digital radio guinea pigs. And there's pros and cons to these TYT MD-UV 390s. I'm not going to link them yet. I'm gonna wait. I've got a second one coming. Well, technically it's a third one, but the first one, I think the first one didn't make it. It was an old version, and I think the original version of the MD390 was a little buggy. So I've got a second brand new one coming, and I think the oldest one's gonna go get put out to the radio pasture. But at least the charging stations and cords and everything are all compatible. So anyway, blah blah blah. The point is like you only need to find another person that's just even loosely interested in it. Then you've got your radio buddy. Even if they don't have a lot of time, you can still tell them how you're doing. They don't even necessarily need to buy one. Maybe you can buy two, and they can be your radio buddy. And then sooner or later, everyone else will catch on. So if you want me to talk more about radios later, let me know. There's already a lot of videos on how to program digital radios, and I don't think the interest is that high. But what I will say is, I think there's a reason why all of the original MDUV 390s have disappeared. And I think there's a reason why everybody has switched to the MDUV 390 pluses. That being said, I think it's really shitty that TYT, Titera, has. I don't know how through the grapevine this is managing to happen, but tons of support for these TYTs has dried up. All of the official resources for these TYT MD390s have dried up. And I like these radios, even though my original one, I'm pretty sure, is dead. I'm going to get a second plus, and I'm going to make sure. And if this is just a failed platform, I'm going to bust their balls. But if it's just my original one, then I am actually not going to be too surprised. But what bummed me out is I was on. Hold on. Oh, come on, bookmark. Oh, my man. Hold on. Here we go. Right? I think. Yeah, first thing I'll say, if you are interested in these, you don't get the one that says TYT MD 390. It is actually completely different than the MD UV 390 Plus. There's in the older versions, there's GPS and non-GPS. Those are actually slightly different, and versus the MD 380s that also aren't waterproof. So what has been very confusing for newcomers especially is these model numbers. They handled these model numbers horribly. You actually cannot tell. Here's the biggest problem of all, and this is why I don't buy these on eBay. You can't tell what you're getting until you open the back. So like this one's an MD UV 390 5 watt, no GPS, which is the oldest version that there is for the MD 390 series before they bumped up from the 380s. And the 10 watt pluses look exactly the same. But if you open it, it says MDUV 390 10 watt. And short of the person on eBay opening the whole entire thing up and showing you, which most of them will not do, you have no idea if you're getting scammed or not. So you have to get it from buy2wayradios.com. Don't buy it from Amazon, because those Amazon sellers can just close down, and that's what happened. They closed the listing. I guess that Amazon seller is still there, but they closed the listing down, which makes it impossible to, do anything about this bricked radio. And one more thing I'll say about the TYT MD UV 390 Plus is there's one review. Where are the dang reviews? There's one review on 226 that says, "Don't buy these radios. Driver will not work. Video and instructions don't work. These radios are bricks. If you have Windows 11, USB drivers will not work. And all the instructional videos on the site are currently not working. Avoid this like the plague. Total waste of money." Point A, he says the radios are bricks if you have Windows 11. That's not true. Although I am having hiccups with one of my radios, and but the fact that, like, I think it's a flaw with the radio, not Windows 11. I do think that's kind of annoying and frustrating, though. Like, there's no way to actually factory reset one of these. Most people brick these by installing shit on them they weren't supposed to, because these are pretty customizable radios. They say the USB drivers will not work. Obviously they do work, or I wouldn't be using mine. And they say all the instructional videos on the site are currently not working. That is true. I don't know where all of the support stuff went. Although I still was able to find everything I needed. So avoid like the plague, total waste of money. They're not a waste of money if you understand your use case. But yeah, whether or not it was Windows 11 that bricked this, I don't know. What I was doing, though, is I was using the exact same code plug for two radios that are probably 99.99% identical, but I still stand by that the original MDUV 390s are just old enough to where they could just be shitting out. But there's a last known good firmware update, and there's a last known good software version for programming if you're using the official. And it is really, really unfortunate that buy2wayradios.com has what it says is the programming software. But that's for the older ones. So you got to make sure you don't get the wrong one. It also has the newer one, version 2.34, and it has the cable driver. But what it does not have is the firmware. But loading the firmware doesn't factory reboot it. So if putting the new firmware on it doesn't fix it, then you've kind of just got a bricked radio. I wish they would have. I wish this Michael would have gone into a little bit more detail. Especially since buy2wayradios.com will support these radios and they will fix it or send you a new one. So I I am tending to believe that this Michael bought it from somewhere else, was doing shit that he wasn't supposed to, and bricked it, and doesn't know what he's doing, and hates the radio, and he's mad. Because I have it on personal authority, somebody that had a radio, and it was this brand, and it was a little glitchy, and they sent it back and fixed it and sent it back, and it's fine. So, buy2wayradios.com is legit. It's a TYT is being a little retarded, and unfortunately, again, this is not new with just radio manufacturers in general. Yaesu, with proprietary third-party software and shit, and proprietary cables and software requiring you to be online. That's Yaesu. Whereas TYT, you don't have to register anything. You don't have to have an account. You don't have to register. It does have a proprietary cable, but you can just go grab the drivers. The drivers are still available. It is a lot harder if you have to go back and find firmware versions, but maybe if enough people buy these and enough people will bitch, TYT will actually fix their website and load all their drivers back onto it. But again, radio community, very robust. They support each other. So all that shit is still available. And I was talking to Grok for a long time today. Grok was helping me troubleshoot the radios, and Grok had a little bit of a hard time finding all the files I needed and helping me troubleshoot. But I just said, at one point I was like, can you find me one that doesn't have broken links? And it did it. To Grok's credit, Grok actually fully helped me troubleshoot everything on the old bricked radio. But I think it's kind of toast. But it helped me reboot it enough to get the ID working again. But it's not helping send or receive transmissions. Anywho, that's it for radios and just skills and tech and skill sharing in general. Lastly, I wanted to say that there's this crazy dichotomy in the job market where they'll tell you that you're only worth what the market will bear, but they'll also tell you to only work what for as much as you're being compensated for. And what I say to that is, you need to find your value, and you need to be spending your time doing what gets you the most value, whether that's for your job or whether that's for prepping. I think it could apply to both. So right now, crypto is way up. So I get more value right now working on crypto. Some people might not like that or might not agree with that. I kind of don't care, because if I'm getting a lot of value from it, it makes literally the most sense to work on it. If I'm going to be getting a lot of value out of radios soon, it makes sense for me to work on that. And last week, it made sense for me to work on the bunker codes rebranding to bunker basics. So I encourage you all to think about how you're spending your time, and spend your time where it gives you the most value, because your work is not going to compensate you as much as you're worth. They're going to gaslight you into saying that you are only worth what they are willing to pay you and what the market will bear. But that doesn't work anymore. The landscape is dramatically shifting to where probably 90% of the jobs in the US are going to be automated or AI very, very soon. Within 10 years, it is going to be a dramatically different landscape. The money and the skills and the knowledge you put away now are what you will be able to use to ride through the next one. So for those of you getting land, that is going to be your last bastion of hope. That's where you can put seeds in the ground. That's where you can build apple trees and plant apple trees and kale and build planter boxes. The next 10 years are going to be insane. So I lost 10 years of my life not having enough money to save my job, or not having enough money to save my house. I put false hope in the relationships that I had been cultivating. And because of that, we almost lost everything. We basically lost everything. It took 5.5 years to crawl out from under that. And the 2.5 years before that, we had just been dying on the vine. So maybe we lost more like 7.5 to 8 years. And I never want to go through that again. And I have been planning to angle into this as hard as I can for like 8 years. And if I had spent the 10 years before that angling into it, I would have survived, and I would be in an insane, unbelievable place now. And I would have 10 years of my life back, but then I guess I probably wouldn't be helping all of you. So, everything happens for a reason, as they say. I'm still where I want to be physically, spatially, but not financially and not gear-wise and not having, a massive fortress with resources. I would be on par with all of my neighbors if the market hadn't have crashed so many times in a row. So you have to hedge into this with everything you've got. I was on a stream earlier, completely unrelated video game stuff, and the video game guy that we were watching the stream with, he said, is that Electric Underground, I think? He was checking his bill, his checking his finances, because we were waiting for the next game to start. And he said a vehicle washing place had put an auto recurring on his card and he hadn't caught it. He had been paying $30 a month for a year on a subscription that he didn't even know that existed, that he never used, that he never signed. And they had been skimming $30 a month off of him for a year before he caught it. He had another story where he said Ticketmaster wouldn't refund him a ticket when a band had canceled, and he had to almost take them to court over that before Ticketmaster would refund it. During that stream, 2 different people canceled all their recurring subscriptions to everything they had. And they were all listing the amount of money that they were saving. And then they were donating a little piece of it to him, which was pretty cool. He changed a lot of lives with those stories, even though it's a silly video game stream. We were just sitting there winding down, waiting for the next part of the tournament to start of this silly video game. But like, we're just a bunch of like-minded people, and him sharing that little, tidbit changed a bunch of lives tonight. And he just helped a bunch of people head into the storm. Unless you work as closely with IT as I do, or you understand the manufacturing supply chain, you do not understand. You may hear about it, you may talk about it, you may even be in a lot of the same chat rooms that I'm in. You cannot understand how royally fucked we are. We don't make anything here, and it's all going to be robots and automation anyway. These data centers aren't going to employ anybody. I think Amazon's making like 4 nuclear. Amazon is licensing like 4 nuclear reactors. I think Amazon reactors. Oh, I spelled that wrong. Amazon enlists small nuclear reactors. Oh, that was last year. But I think they just got it. I think they just got it approved, or whatever. They just finally signed the thingy. Oh, it was Google. Well, Amazon's doing it too. Amazon's getting 4. Google is getting 3 nuclear power plants. So between Amazon and Google, that's 7 nuclear power plants. They will be able to power years and years and years and years and years and years of AI. Now it's good because it means it's not jacking everybody's prices up. People already can't afford electricity now, and it'll be good for grid stability and stuff. But we are heading into a world where AI is going to be taking over everything. Everybody thought it was a fad, just like they thought the internet was a fad, and video games were a fad, and everything was a fad. But I used AI for like 8 hours today to troubleshoot radios, searching the same 4 dead websites. When you're trying to troubleshoot and you've only got like 4 dead websites to go off of, you'll do anything. And I couldn't believe that I could just sit here and just have the AI parse through all the information over and over and over and recombine the information back into instruction. Now, it still hallucinates a lot. It still sends you like dead links and shit a lot. But it can synthesize the information. It can synthesize every website of all the info in like 10 seconds. And it can itemize and bullet it out for you. That alone, you throw that in like an AI agent, it's gonna, like, knowledge base is already completely almost wiped out call centers. You load the knowledge base to an AI, it's going to wipe out your call center. It's going to wipe out your sales agents. it's going to wipe out everything. It's going to wipe out tech support. It's going to wipe out insurance. It's going to wipe out everything. And you have to think about, when you should have been thinking about it a long time ago, but there's still time. Think about what these recession-proof jobs are. If not for yourself, then for your kids. I hear a lot of people say, well, I'm close to retiring. It doesn't matter to me. Okay, your kids are going to be fucked then, I guess, but good that it doesn't matter to you. Unfortunately, there's that boomer mentality that got us in this situation in the first place. My dad doesn't give a shit about this stuff either, probably, and neither does yours. If you have one. But, well, I don't care about it. I'm gonna retire. I'm gonna retire. I don't care about. I hear that so much. Like, A, there isn't going to be Social Security anyway. B, if you're drawing your retirement from a company, is that company going to be recession proof? Is that company going to get bailed out by the government? How is the government going to pay for it? How is the government going to pay for Social Security when I think we have to borrow the money to just pay down the interest of our debt now? That's how bad it is. This, like, the sheer gravity of how screwed we are is almost impossible to imagine. Yeah, we're over 2 trillion budget deficit, and we're almost to 37 trillion on the debt. You know, and the Doge thing didn't find hardly any money. It found a little bit of corruption. It hardly saved any money. The rhinos once again aren't talking about slashing any of that waste, fraud, and abuse they found. So as always, the rhinos are an absolute joke. The Fed still wants a $2.5 billion building with the B. Nobody knows what the Fed does. All of the RIFs have gotten paused by another upstart judge, and saying that the federal government isn't allowed to reorg anymore without approval from the Senate, which is insane. You can think that Orange Man has overextended as much as you want. You can be as far left as you want. And I think you should still be able to agree that the 3 letters not being able to reorg without Congress approval is fucking wrong. I could not have imagined that a judge could have somehow done that and that anybody would even listen to it. And before you go, unions, this and that. Unions bring in hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions and millions and millions of dollars. All they're doing is putting on theatrics. The unions can't actually stop any of this. These judges can't actually stop any of this. What they can do is they can delay, put on a little bit of theatrics, take all your money, and they're fine. They've all got golden parachutes. All these execs that act like they're fighting for you, they're all fine. These unions, they're all fine. It's just like the NRA. Everyone blames the NRA for everything. The NRA is fine, right? They already got their money. So they were just another grift. And as soon as you realize that you're being played by almost everybody, yes, you still need car insurance, and you should still get life insurance, and you should still get self-defense insurance. But you have to be smart. Either you or your spouse or your kid or some kind of, paid expert or something needs to go through all of your finances and clear out all the muck and make sure you're being taken care of. We were overpaying on our cell phone bill. We were overpaying on our insurance. My wonderful wife, went through it all, and she found tons and tons of overpayments, and was able to rework everything. These insurance companies are, all of them, life and health and property, and all these different insurance companies are just ride are dying this thing right into the YOLO volcano because they can. And while you're worried about football and sports and things, they're just jacking your rates up like crazy, hoping that you don't notice and hoping that you don't have the time, effort, or energy to look anywhere else. So check your statements, check your bills, check everything, right? What's more important, that you have your premium sports package, or that your kids have enough flashlights if the lights go out? What's more important? That you put away a couple extra candles, or that you got your stupid Netflix? Or what's more important, that you have cable so your kids can watch stupid SpongeBob, or put some food away? What's more important? Take your kids out hiking or something. Make sure they have shoes, because if this trade war crap doesn't calm down, there isn't going to be any more shoes. I know that sounds stupid, but during the Rona, there wasn't clothes for like 9 months. Okay, it's insane. There's indications that China's backing down, and there's indications that the India-Pakistani war is dying down. But if Israel doesn't stop poking Palestine, then fuck is that? Yemen isn't going to stop attacking people in the Strait, and Iran's not going to stop shuffling weapons around, and America's not going to stop saber rattling, sending up bombers from Diego Garcia and wasting half of our entire bomb supply to only set them back a little bit amount of time for nukes, which are objectively, so what? So you nuke the planet. So what? They make 4 nukes, so they make 100 nukes. Who cares? Like, global nuclear war is like one of the dumbest boogeymen on the planet now. Is like, we're either going to run out of food, go on a global recession, have a rampant civil war. Like, once you just give all of this to God, the whole picture just becomes 10,000 times more clear. You stop worrying about all of it, and you just see what's in front of you, which is how you keep from accidentally, getting stuck in a giant woke mob in the city. Okay? It's how you... So, our grocery store has, we buy the things that are on sale with the little orange, the little sale tags. Our grocery store has been charging us full price for all that. They haven't been giving us the discount prices. We've been getting completely ripped off by our shop local. We've been getting ripped off by our local grocery store continually. And if you're worried about the price of tea in China, you're not paying attention to how you're getting absolutely fleeced every day. You're not paying attention to the people watching your house. You're not paying attention to the people following your kids to the bus stop. All that other weird-ass creepy shit, people taking pictures of your kids and stuff. You're not paying attention to what your kids are doing online, right? You're not paying attention to your kids getting ambushed after school by a bunch of ferals that are taking video of it and laughing. You're not paying attention, okay, to the homeless camp setting up at the end of your road. You're not paying attention to the fact that all the gang shootings have suspiciously stopped out of nowhere, despite shootings going up year after year, as long as you can remember. And all of a sudden the gangs just disappeared. Don't you think that's weird? You're not paying attention to 10 fucking bodies washing up in the river. 10. They're up to 10 now. What the fuck? You gotta stop worrying about all the globo homo news bullshit, fucking cabal shit around the planet. And you gotta pay attention to what's going on around you, because that's what you've got to prepare for. Doesn't fucking matter if Iran makes a bunch of nukes. It's not gonna matter. It's not even gonna move the needle. Okay? If North Korea's had nukes all this time, it's not gonna matter. And so what? If Iran nukes Israel, oh no, Iran nukes Israel. Guess what? We're all still fucked tomorrow. Like, it doesn't matter. We can't deal with that shit. You have to deal with all these fucking rabid illegals running around. And all these methed out fenthead homeless that now have a new purple fentanyl, apparently. There's a purple fentanyl, if you can believe it. You have to pay attention, outward in concentric circles to where you're at. For a lot of you, that means tornadoes. And for a lot of you, that means hurricanes. For some of you, that means earthquakes. You have to do your threat assessments with what's close and the likelihood and the priority and the severity. Okay? All these warmongering psychos and all these garbage clowns, they're all on the same side, and they're not on your side. Yeah, you should pick up garbage, okay? But you gotta realize that the homeless are filling our forests full of garbage. It's disgusting. So, with that being said, there's still time. There isn't going to be a massive everywhere all at once collapse. There's going to be signs. There's going to be stages. There's going to be warnings. And you just have to keep planning and prepping and training and practicing. So, I'm rebranding bunker codes to bunker basics in a few weeks. Maybe that's going to get the word out more. I don't know. But I've been reading these other great prepper books, and it's been really inspiring to me. And I think there's a place in this stack for mine. And it has really inspired me to write a second one. So I hope here in a few weeks I can count on all of you to support my bunker codes rebranding to Bunker Buddies, and I think there's still time to get through this. We just have to keep thinking about it and talking about it and working through it. So plan and train and prep and do all the things and be aware and trip check. And I'll talk to y'all into the next one. Leave a comment down below and I will respond to it in the next video. Bye.
I've been sitting here thinking about my life, trying to justify it all, preparing for the next strife. Another car goes by, trying hard as I sigh, knowing we can't go back, facing a future of lies. It'd be a waste even if we could, 'cause status quo feels just too good. People soon simply cannot know how good we had it, except on old TV shows. The lives we've left behind, surrounded by survivors' guilt, life dying on the vine, while everything but faith wilts. What else can we do but move forward and trust what God set in motion? Surround ourselves with good people in this vast dark ocean. Tell the people that you love how you feel every day. Each day we get closer to not being able to say how we really feel, and hold the ones we love close. Don't surround yourself by those you hate.